Hi, everyone. Welcome to our virtual event this Sunday. My name is Millie Herod, and I am the membership manager here at the NFA. If this is your first time attending an NFA event, then I would like to personally welcome you to this flute community. The NFA was founded in 1972 and has since grown to become one of the world's largest flute organizations, with members from all 50 states and countries from across the globe. We invite you to visit our website, nfaonline.org, and learn more about us and how you can be involved. We'd also like to acknowledge that today's online event is made possible with support from our members, our donors, and the Illinois Arts Council. Thank you, and I'm so excited to welcome our presenter today, Lina, and you can go ahead and get started.
So welcome everyone. I'm very happy to see all of you. Thanks to Millie and to NFA for hosting those wonderful online events and giving us the opportunity to become such an international flute family. I'm Lina Digka. I'm a flutist and contemporary music performer based both in Greece and Austria. And today I would like to share with you my great love for contemporary music and the bass flute. So contemporary music came into my life gradually without even knowing what exactly it was. Since I was a child, I was fascinated by those weird sounds that someone could produce with a flute. And I still remember my first short flute piece with the flanger tongue technique and the voice technique, which really aroused my interest. And later studying pieces of the 20th and 21st century led me to a path for further investigation for the repertoire of the contemporary music. And my bachelor studies were the start of the journey when I decided to participate in a contemporary music concert, which was part of my university composition department. And yeah, from that moment, I haven't stopped searching, playing, and learning. So I decided to follow the master studies of contemporary music at the University of Music and Performing Arts in Vienna, studying with my beloved teacher Eva Fuhr. And I evolved both scientifically and artistically in the field of contemporary music. I discovered the bass flute, and even though there are not a lot of bass flute solo pieces, I found that it's important to write a master thesis about this subject, which was it's called The Bass Flute in the 21st Century through the prism of Oscar Bianchi's composition Gur for solo bass flute. And actually can imagine the further development of the bass flute repertoire, and I hope that today's presentation will be a useful tool both for flutists and composers. So let me share the screen. Okay. Today I will focus to the study of a contemporary piece, and particularly a piece for the bass flute. I chose Gur by Oscar Bianchi as a great example, and I would like to examine both the performers and composers' perspectives. I found out that it is really helpful for flutists to organize their own performance guides for pieces like that. And I would like to share with you some tips and exercises that maybe could help you to become quickly familiar with those extending techniques. First of all, when we decide to practice a contemporary music piece or any piece, it is important to know about the context or any story behind the piece. Get to know the composers and their influences, ideas about the piece. It is a great chance for us as performers of the 21st century to play pieces by living composers and get to know their unique language and style of their pieces by even though meet or discuss with them. An opportunity that it is really important for our performances. So let's have an introduction to the piece. First of all, we can listen to the piece. This is my recording from 2022, maybe a part of it. And if we still have time, we will listen the whole piece at the end of the presentation. So, Gur is a solo bass flute piece composed by Oscar Bianchi 2010. The piece was commissioned by Paolo Vignaroli for the Lucerne Festival and world premiere on the 11th September 2010. The title Gur is connected to the unique flutter tongue technique that Bianchi uses, taken from the German air Flatterzunge, which is produced on the soft palate and is located back in the oral cavity. So the composer has a particular interest for the low instruments, as we can also see from other works of his, because of the harmonic richness and the palpable spectrum qualities he refers. He chose to work with the bass flute because the specific techniques are effective on this instrument and are produced better due to the natural resonance of the body. And another interesting issue, as he refers in our interview, is that the bass flute exacerbates the spatial emission of the sound. The rhythmical precision is also important in there. The sense of change of speed is one of the most fascinating aspects. As performers, we need to approach the piece as a deep introspective experience and not as a technical one, Bianchi refers. A few words. Oscar Bianchi was born in 1975 in Milan, Italy. And I encourage you to get to know Oscar Bianchi. I found him extremely talented, and his piece an important piece for the repertoire of our instruments. Visit, of course, his website, listen to his music. He's a very important composer of our times with an international aspect. So nowadays, flutists call to play all kinds of flutes, especially if you play in a contemporary ensemble or contemporary music. I found out that every instrument, of course, has its own characteristics, but when we perform contemporary music, we need to know those characteristics very, very well. The contemporary techniques specifically need their own investigation on its instrument. For example, whistle tones or multiphonics or the percussive sounds. So my favorite, the bass flute. As a member of the flute family, the bass flute plays and will play an important role in the music of the 21st century. Contemporary music composers worldwide have included the bass flute in their composition, giving to the bass flute new perspectives, while the bass flute was just an instrument used mostly in flute ensembles during the 20th century. And due to the instrument's new construction concerning its mechanism, the bass flute nowadays has many potentials and is used also as a solo instrument. And flutists can handle the instrument easier today than in the past because the flute makers perfected the mechanism, and the bass flute has quite the same potential as the concert C flute. Composers also explored this potential and the unique characteristics of this instrument and offer new repertoire for this type of flute, giving the chance for further development. So it's also interesting to study the development of the bass flute construction from the bass flutes in the 16th and 17th century as part of the recorder family. Then Boyker of Amsterdam constructed the bass flute in early 18th century. Flute makers at that period experienced a lot with the tube size, the foot length, working on the pitch and the range of the flutes. Then Charles Deleuze manufactured around 1760 a slightly longer bass flute than Boyker's. And then Malcolm McGregor from England, based on Deleuze's flute, created in 1910 a bass flute with 8 keys. And the revolution of flute making came in 1847, where Theobald Böhm set the base for the modern flute construction. Many flute makers tried to add more keys to the foot join in order to extend the pitch range, but unfortunately it did not lead to satisfying results. For this reason, the flute makers tried to experience for years to create lower pitched flutes. So in 1910, the Italian flutist Abelardo Albisi created the Albisiphone, kind of an upright bass flute based on the Böhm's system flute construction. And the bass flute in C was developed in England by Rudolf Cartier in 1932, and it was held diagonally and had a curved head joint. And all the modern bass flutes are based on the Böhm system flute. So, from the performer's perspective, some of the piece's main characteristics will be presented through my own point of view as a performer, and it is important to focus on the spatial characteristics of the bass flute in connection with the piece. By seeing the title, Grr, someone could say that it's not a random choice of the composer. It refers to Bianchi's extended technique Grr, which is used through the whole piece. As you can see here on the score, it is a combination of a flutter tongue and voice. So maybe we can listen to that part. So in these circles, I have the flutter tongue and voice technique which Bianchi called Grr. And also it is really interesting to see that Bianchi creates an atmosphere of contrasting energy elements, both relaxing and tense. So tenseness is achieved through the very often changes of rhythm and tempo. And as we can see, while glissando and normal tone passages gives a more static character, as if time stops. Percussive sounds and quick passages always lead somewhere, speeding up, and then suddenly the listener is transferred to a different dimension, a calmer and a relaxed one. The phenomenon gives to the listener a sense of incompleteness and anticipation. So both listener and performer move from a pathetic state to an active participation, either by listening or playing. So it's really interesting to hear also this part. So as you can see, the red arrows are like speeding up and then again keeping calm and again speeding up, getting calmer. So in general, the piece has a percussive character and relevant techniques are used in order to support the piece's idea. The listener possibly might be confused when listening to Guru because the clear bass flute sound is minimally used. The bass flute is actually a perfect choice for the techniques used because of the size of the tube and the corresponding resonance. For example, all the pizzicato and slaps are really amplified in a bass flute, and the composer notates them in the low register of the flute where most of the keys are closed, creating a fuller sound. Pizzicato and slap seems to be the same effect for many composers and performers, but for Bianchi it is quite different. He needs two different percussive sounds, which lead to a specific sound result and certain percussive colors. Pizzicato is as a more airy percussive alternates with the very dry slap. And tongrams, internal slaps, and internal pizzicatos are very unique on the bass flute, especially if they are notated in the low register. Changing from an external to internal plane creates color differences and on the same effect, and also gives a different character to the sound. And external pizzicato and slap are light and bright, when internal are darker and sounds even lower. So, excuse me. Then, as an alternation to the percussive sounds, the glissandi and normal sound phrases are usually notated in a higher register than the other effects to create a contrast. Really high register notes are used, for example, in measure 41, 53, or 58, which are truly demanding to be produced on the bass flute. The third octave of a bass flute is quite difficult concerning the best sound quality, and the production of the higher notes are on limits. Let's listen to this ensemble. So sometimes there are some obstacles when playing to the bass flute because of its construction. And as my teacher Eva mentioned in her interview for my thesis, we need a very good connection with the instrument in order to face the weaknesses of the bass flute. Being familiar means that we need to approach the instrument by knowing very well its characteristics. Of course, you have to approach the specific instrument with logic, Eva says. The bass flute is bigger, the mouthpiece is different, the weight of the instrument and the length of its body parts are also different compared to the flute. Concerning the weight, for example, you need to build up physical strength, fitness, analyze what is needed, take pauses, recover the muscles, and do some exercises against the demanding way of holding the bass flute. If you don't build up flexibility and condition, there will be resistance in your body and in your mind. So connecting with the bass flute means taking care about the sound while practicing. Sound plays a very important role for new music techniques. We need to search for the best sound for each effect, according to Eva, and be creative, have an image on what we should play, and of course, have love for our sound. And we're coming to the question how to study the piece. Eva replied, we should really give our best and really read what is written on the music score, that we try to avoid any pattern, habit, imprint, or our ego to take over. So what we should really take into consideration is to be open-minded and to the composer's text and also of what we gain from the text. And yeah, that is true. We need to be careful. The score has to be studied with accuracy. Otherwise, we paraphrase the composer's idea. And of course, we could have our own interpretation, but in contemporary music, we need all the details written. Also, we should know exactly what the composers mean with their signs, notation, and how the signs are translated into that particular sound that they are looking for. So just a reminder, now I will present my performance guide, but you can use this performance guide and my exercises for any piece and all types of flutes. And some exercise may vary slightly, but they follow the same philosophy. So, Kur is without a doubt a demanding piece concerning the techniques, and the fact that it's written for bass flute has made the task even harder. And I firmly believe that dealing with the score should be done in steps. The present performance guide is made in order to help flutists have a deeper understanding of Kur's techniques, as well as give ideas on how to work with other contemporary music pieces. And in order to approach the piece, first of all, flutists have to familiarize themselves with the extended techniques of the piece, the composer notation through the piece, and the piece's legenda. Legenda, I mean the composer's instruction signs explained in the beginning. And in that step, I found it really helpful to compare the composer's instruction through the piece and the legenda with Karin Levi's, Carl Lary's, and Helen Bledsoe's definition for each element. There are plenty of contemporary flute technique books, maybe you all know, and website, dissertation, blogs, with the most famous books besides the previous referred, the one by Bruno Bartolozzi, Pierre Rivato, and Robert Dick. But for my performance guide, I chose Levine's, Rees, and Blensoyas as the most suitable. So for the present performance guide, I will include practice tips and for performance suggestions from my own experiences, which I gained through the process I followed to interpret the piece, and also through my professor's important guidance. It's important to refer that the composer's instructions are followed as accurate as possible, but for closer to the score interpretation, I need, as an interpreter, to offer my own suggestions. I will present some of my own sort exercises also. And yeah, notation and special composer symbols won't be discussed because it's a whole chapter about the differences in notation in contemporary music. The aim of the comparison in my performance guide is more focused on the production of the technique and the sounding result. Yeah, extending techniques. So we need to understand and categorize maybe the extended techniques used on the piece, and of course, connect them with their unique sign and notation that our composer uses for this particular piece. For example, in Kur, we have pizzicato, slap, kick clicks, flutter tongue, and gur, glissando and quarter tones, tonegram, whistle tones, and air sounds. Yeah, first technique used, the pizzicato. Even though I played many pieces using this technique, my approach to each one is completely individualized. So first we need to understand the instructions given in the legenda. So the legenda says, notes with an oblique cut, toneless, double tone noise on a single stream of air. Okay, he gave us an idea on how to interpret the notes with an oblique cut. The notes have to be toneless, using double tone, probably a dry sound. And it has to be a single stream of air. Now I'm thinking and searching into the text for extra info. And we can find more instructions like air chains, fingering, kick click for its note ad libitum, pizzicato with air. Or we can find also more air, embouchure, a bit close, close by pressing the lips. And then now I need to examine if it is possible to use the key clicks and where can I use them, in which phrase or passage, question mark. We will find out later. For me, it was important to search for more sources, probably from performers of our times like Levine or Rees. So Levine refers in her book, tongue pizzicato is produced by modifying the normal articulation on the tongue. The tip of the tongue lies firmly on the roof of the mouth and then supported by a strong airstream, is explosively thrown to the bottom. There are many different sounds can be produced by modifying the position of the tongue as well as the resonant space of the mouth. In very fast passages, it's better to change to double or triple tonguing, like voiceless taka or takata. Okay, and then I searched to Calories website and research and see says normal articulation may be used with air only to create a percussive effect. Air sounds may also be used with key clicks for additional articulation. At fast speeds, double tonguing can be very effective, but triple and single tonguing may equally be used. Other sounds, such as te, ki, si, may also be used to good effect. It should be noted, however, that the articulation comes from the use of consonants with vowels, providing colors through the mouth space used. So, as we can understand, it is very important to do small research for every technique we want to learn more about, and to be more precise to the sounding effect we need. So Oscar asks for a pizzicato with air, without beats, toneless, which will be produced with the double tonguing and the use of key clicks. So tongue pizzicato technique, as described by Levine, using double tonguing, takata, could be adopted by flutists for Bianchi's pizzicato, but with an adjustment concerning the addition of air. Similarly to Levine, Rees talks about the mouth space and the use of vowels, while for fast passages he also suggests double tonguing. The difference with Rees is that she actually combines the articulated effects, double tonguing with air, and she names this effect as articulated air sounds, which I find more related to the topic. The additional key clicks on the pizzicato passages are not, in most cases, possible in the piece, because of the range, low notes on the flute, and the repetitive character. For example, in measure 1 and measure 10, I suppose that Bianchi asks for key clicks to add extra articulation and color. So for this reason, my suggestion would be the random use of different vowels like tika, taka, or tuku, as explained maybe later. So some practice tips. All the above instruction mentioned could be used as a tool to practice the first element of the piece, like the pizzicato con aria effect in measures 1 and 10. And in addition to that, the flutist could use different kind of vowels during double tonguing staccato in a random sequence, like tika, taka, teku, toku, and slightly move the head and then the flute inwards and outwards in order to have a very fast articulation in different color qualities. So the suggested change of fingering, click, for its note ad libitum is impossible in my mind. And for this reason, as an alternative, I suggest the above solution. A whispering kind of effect should be created in measure 10 using the same technique because of the piano dynamic. And in measure 61, for example, double staccato is produced this time with the embouchure hole completely covered. So air changes gradually to sound in measure 90, which requires a change of articulation and mouth shape. For example, the beginning saying to, to, and gradually change to a normal to do. From an airy kind of articulation, to a drier one. And in part D, measures 107 to 110, from my personal point of view, we can observe that the pizzicato's character is quite different, while the piece's character changes in that part. For that reason, pizzicatos here should be played more joyfully and lighter, as the metronomic indication is a quarter 144. So for this character, I use double tonguing, like tuku 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 or tuku tuku tuku, but I changed the vowel for the marcato accents like T or D to emphasize it. And it is really demanding to keep the airstream flow through those passages on the bass flute, and a good connection between the flute and the airstream is pretty necessary. So let's continue. There are two exercises I created to practice the airy pizzicato. So first of all, we need to practice the airy sound, so we can follow the first exercise. Here you can practice the airy pizzicato in any flute, of course. Like Millie also will share the exercises with you on the chat and on the NFA's website. So the first exercise, airy to normal sound exercise, is focused on the performer's ability to have a gradual change of the sound. First step, by beginning in a slow tempo, for example, quarter 60, try to create a less focused and airy sound. The embouchure could be slightly wider, and turning the flute should also make a difference, like or other combinations can be used. Second, now change your embouchure gradually to normal while blowing continually, and control your airstream, so you will have the airy to normal effect. And third step is practice the pieces extract using the above steps. You can use actually any piece or your favorite phrase or any concerto, sonata, or I don't know, anything you want to practice the air effect. Just try to forget whatever you do right on the flute and experiment a bit with the different kind of embouchure shape. And just remember to be relaxed and experiment with your sound. Nothing is wrong at this step, needs some time to reach the level that you master, let's say, this effect. And just have fun and try. For me, also works to have an image on your mind. So the second exercise, after practicing the first exercise and achieving this airy sound, we can try to practice the pizzicato following the second exercise. So this exercise is suggested for the pizzicato technique, which can be found as an example in measure 1. Play staccato notes using double tongue and a variety of random vowels, and as an improvisation. Exaggerate with the use of the vowels like tike, tak, teke, like any combination you can imagine. And then when you are familiar with that, you can use the following pattern and improvise with accelerando and ritardando, like tike, taka, teke, teke, tike, taka, or whatever. And then you can try to bend slightly the head and move the flute inwards and outwards. Move the chin down and up while practicing all those steps. And the fourth is engage the pieces phrases and add the appropriate dynamic where needed. And remember to practice the crescendo and diminuendo and pianissimo as whispering, because it's quite different in every dynamic. The slap, the most challenging techniques, the technique of the piece is the slap, as mentioned by the composer, or according to other sources, can also be referred as pizzicato. And at this point, I would like to mention that it is important for the composers to give an indication and describe the sounds, regardless the notating symbol. For Bianchi, the difference between the pizzicato and slap is actually that the pizzicato is a kind of airy double tongue, whereas the slap is a very dry, explosive effect. The definition by Levine, the reason Blenzo will have probably different designations, but for each case, I use the appropriate description which suits to Bianchi's sound effect. So the composer says in the Legenta, pizzicato molto staccato, pitch as clear as possible. Slap with half closed embouchure, molto staccato, tuk. It should sound a major seventh below, like a tongue grab, And external slap, dry, internal slap, very dry, well articulated, half closed embouchure. So now I won't refer to the definitions to save time, but you can find them in Levine's book and on the website of Reason Blensoe. A dry slap, as Bianchi describes, a voiceless toe, as Levine describes, the action of splitting the rice from Reese, or the pop or bubble image from Bledsoe are descriptions of the same effect, but with some minor differences. First of all, Bianchi asks for a dry slap for both internal and external plane. Concerning Levine, having into consideration the pizzicato technique description from the previous section, she suggests two ways of producing the voiceless to and the lips pa. And Ree's definition is similar to Levine's by again using the tongue and lip pizzicato as described by them, while Blensoe seems to use the same effects, but her lip pizzicato is quite different. Levine and Rees refers to a pa sound produced by the lip pressure without the tongue, while Blensoe recommends the tongue on the lips, like in general, the tongue pizzicato for all three is quite the same. Some practice tips. Slap is used intensively during the first part of the piece, almost 6 pages, where the flutists need to accomplish an extremely demanding task. Practicing the slap phrase, it is a matter of energy. It is like dancing and should have a shape, while at the same time, the flutist is looking for the best articulation and sound quality. As it's mentioned earlier, it could be either tongue or lips or tongue on the palate. I personally found the tongue and the lips faster and with more resonance on the flute, but for every flutist, the technique works in a different way, and they suggest try both and decide which one is more effective and audible. Specific gestures could be played even with a combination of the technique. For example, in measure 2, I use the tongue on the lips, which is faster for me in comparison with measure 20 for the high F, where I found that the tongue on the palate works better for the pitch correction. So concerning the internal slap, for example, in measure 20, a very well articulated staccato should be played according to the composer, apart from covering the mouthpiece and produce the sound into the head joint. So those transitions from open into covered mouthpiece are very demanding to bring off and should be practiced separately in order to have a smooth change without moving too much the instrument or interrupt the line of the phrase. So let's see 2 exercises for the slap. Exercise 3 for the 2 different ways of producing an external slap tongue on the lips or palate. First step, practice the C major or chromatic scale or something really easy. Only the first octave of the flute. Play slowly, using once the tongue on the lips and once the tongue on the palate. Try for the best sound quality and connecting with the flute. Second, gradually accelerate using different tempos and improvise around those notes of the first octave. Change between the 2 ways of producing the sound, lip or palate, and combine them. And yeah, different dynamics should also be practiced using passages from the piece, and the dynamic is connected to the sort of articulation and character of its passage. And yeah, one more exercise. Exercise 4, changing the head joint position is not something common for classical flute playing, and practicing this transition before playing the piece excerpts, I found that it's more helpful for me to perfect the technique and the movement. So first step is how to find the right position of the head joint while we're not moving extremely the flute and the head joint. Place the head joint in the normal position and try to cover with the upper lip, the lip plate, so the embouchure hole be surrounded by the lips. Practice this movement sometimes until you do it freely. Then play some double staccato notes, double tonguing, as you would play normally, but with a new position of the embouchure, like for example, only the internal schlap passages in measure 12. And last and most important step is the transition between the normal to closed position. These movements should be practiced separately. Think that you are playing an appoggiatura leading to a note and then play an open position to a closed position slap, but like an appoggiatura. The movement has to be really automatic and precise when you play the whole passage, like in measure 12. So yeah, if we had more time, I would be more than happy to show you the entire performance guide of all the techniques, including the practice tips and my exercise. However, I think you now have an idea on how to work with the contemporary pieces. This is also an approach I follow to practice the piece. So today I wanted to show you how we could practice by following the same steps I took from learning about the instrument, its history, construction, mechanical challenges such as weight and mechanism, to getting to know the composer, his style, influences, analyzing the piece and its structure, and studying the techniques used. So consider the two perspectives, that of a composer and that of a performer, how we should approach a piece versus how a composer envisions it should be approached. This involves creating a performance guide, incorporating definitions by well-known performers, developing practice tips to help us achieve our goals, and working on technical exercises to build skills before tackling the piece itself. So the piece was under edition when I wrote my thesis in 2022, but anyway, you can contact Universal Edition durant Salabertesic. And yeah, thank you for your time. Please find my email or my social media if you need to ask me for more exercises or whatever. And yeah, you can find the whole performance of the piece on YouTube. There you can also notice all the details I've talked about today. Yeah, thanks for being here. I don't know if you want to listen to the piece a bit, if we have some time.
Oh, yeah, I think we still have a little bit of time, so we can definitely
Yeah.
listen to it.
Okay, thank you. So. Sorry. Oh. Stop sharing the screen. So once again, thank you for being here. If you have any questions or chat.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can unmute or put them in the chat, and we'll wait a minute here. I think I actually have the exercises. I'll put that in the
Yeah.
chat. The session is recorded and will be up on our YouTube channel this week. So if you want to reference back to this information, or if you want to send it to your friends or your students, it will be on YouTube. We'll also try to have this PDF linked along with that. And yeah, so thank you again for a very interesting presentation. I'm not a low flute player, so it was really interesting to get to hear about more about like the instrument and the development, a lot of things that I didn't really know. So yeah, thank you everybody who attended. And this is actually our last online event series for a while. Um, Watch out later this spring for the application if you want to apply to be a presenter later this year. And if you have any other questions, feel free to visit our website. Please follow us on social media. So yeah, thank you so much for everything. And if there's no more questions, then I guess we'll end it there. And I hope you guys have a great Sunday.